Well, I make this mistake in every game. I pulled this Galactic event, and Sunspots on Vero, this 43 system. Creature attacks, if they happen, they'll always, if they come up as an action event, they'll always happen. Now, if an event drawn is the same as a previous drawn, this or contradicts a previous drawn event, it's ignored. So an extra bonus draw followed by a prohibition of bonus draws. The prohibition, I guess, is drawn, is ignored. I never remember this little rule. One of the factors of perhaps because I don't read the rules before I play and just play by how I remember. That may have had a significant effect because a lot of times you get bonus draws that are added and then they get canceled. On the other hand, if they get canceled first. So to me, it doesn't seem like a contradiction there, but it's specified in here. And likewise, with the creature attacks, I have them keep coming. So that may be a negative for especially for the Rebel player, just because they're more reliant on their characters. That may have impacted some of the effects. I've got to try to remember that. It's just something that doesn't stick with me in the game ever. Anyway, in this case, this particular one means that creature attacks will keep happening on that planet. And we'll probably see a little bit, just a tiny bit more successes for the Rebel player here. That's the Galactic event. Taxation ended up putting up some more PDBs and actually raising System 5 up so that they were all up to level 1 there. This has now become a difficult sector to cope with. And finally, that's the last thing we pull this, and that's going to be 2 to 5 or 5 to 2, however you want to look at it. I built some extra navies over here in the capital. Have some intention of pushing in this direction. Eventually it gets to the point where, you know, you have some cover on all planets, and that's when it becomes really, really rough for the Rebels. And maybe the slow ramp up that I'm used to in the game, and maybe because of ignoring that role, could be enough to make it almost impossible for the Rebels. I know that the players' notes and some players' comments make it sound like the rebellion is inevitable. To me, usually the failure of the rebellion is what's been inevitable. It's just easy enough for the Imperials to stomp things out until they get to that powerhouse range. This may be... it doesn't seem like a significant enough effect, but it definitely does seem like something that would slightly skew it against the Rebels. So maybe we'll see a little bit more luck since I pulled this fairly early in the game. Sometimes I probably never see it at all before I've killed them all off. Alright, on to the Rebel players. Mixed results with the Rebels camp. Some of them actually produced some results. I don't know where. It's hard to tell. I think this one dropped a point. I'm not sure. There's still a few of them out there. There's still 4 of them in play. And I wanted to increase here over here. I did the Summon Sovereign and the Diplomacy. The Diplomacy again. Summon Sovereign worked, and now I'm getting more and more tied here. Now, this is not the stack I want here. I want this stack going around finding the secrets, but with the PDB up, with defenses in place, this is going to be a tough fight for anyone else to get in and out of there. So they're kind of the group that wants to stay there. So particularly with the Sovereign now in place, they definitely are not going to be leaving on their next action. Elsewhere, we had failures. Down here, Xena rested, so the rest went on diplomacy missions, hope to drop, get the dual bonus so that the Suvans would get a domino effect. They got nothing. And then over here we also did, I don't remember what. We were trying to push something there. Looks to me like we were trying to do diplomacy there for the same reason with the Saurians, to get the domino effect, more than to just create a rebellion. The problem with doing things like that is taxation will probably come around there before I get a chance to rebel, and the loyalty will go up another level because the Imperials won't tax the particular planet. Again, it's very, very easy to try to play for the status quo as the Imperials, and that's kind of one of the troubles here. Had at least one situation where one of the action events didn't get played because of my realization of that rule in here. It had no effect, though. I mean, when I looked at the rest of them, it just, you know, oh look, something got canceled twice. You know, the bonus draws got canceled twice. Big deal. And that's kind of one of the problems. Is just bad stuff seems to happen so often now. If you get extra bonus draws and those don't get canceled out, that is a significant little piece. All right, on to the Imperials. What are they going to be able to do? Going from province 2 to 5, they're going to be able to make this shift here. And there's not a lot, because the rebels were not terribly successful over here. There's a camp to squish, and that's about it. The problem is I have to worry about my next strategic assignment, which is 1 to 4. That means shifting forward to 2 isn't necessarily useful. Let's see what my province 2 one is. 2 to 3, that'll allow me to get here. So I may want to put some forces into province 2 for the transfer later on. The rebels are a long way away from province 5, but you can move pretty quickly in this game. Imperials wipe out another one of those rebel camps, get the loyalty up there. Elsewhere, not so much success. Although Barca made an attempt to do the Stop Rebellion. That's really a tough mission for the Imperials. I need to get 2 letters to succeed. It's no longer a rebel-controlled planet. It's actually not controlled by anyone at this point, which is troublesome. As long as this rebellion's in place, rebel units could move in there, conceivably wipe out this force. And I've got quite a significant force there with Barca and Durman, etc. They don't get any advantages on it. All I'm getting is the 3 base draws. I might be better off here. I'm looking at what R is actually pretty good in special. Urban is the hardest thing to do it in, so I should be moving over to here where I get 4 draws. Without the bonus draws, it's just not very useful at all. And this is nobody's home planet, I'm assuming. 442, I didn't think to check that. Not in that group. Alright, so we pushed into the rebel groups here. For the rebels are not getting what they need done. The camps did okay. They actually reduced a loyalty here and there, I think. But I did set up a camp here, and I'm going to get out of there. Over here I was hoping to get a double diplomacy result still. Not getting that. Things are starting to look worrisome. I don't know what the next event, strategic assignment's going to be, but I could have to get out of there. As it stands right now, I'm not in any real danger. Over here, this big mission, split into 2 missions using the ruler, tried to do the diplomacy to get a double diplomacy, and there's yesters here, so that could actually affect something somewhere else. And I also went for the create rebellion. Well, I got the R I needed, I just didn't get the D's I needed. So there's no rebellion there, nothing's happening over there. So we go to the Imperials again, and there's not a lot they can do either here. Imperials managed to stomp out another one of these. This one, I think I did that one already. This one. These guys were stuck in a drift box. They got to stomp out another rebel camp. And now the camps are really only in the 1st province, and of course where the rebels currently are. No success here, and that's really tough to get. I should give up on it. I probably have better things I can do. But I'm so single-minded. Over here, I think we got 1 point of loyalty. We actually had a failure over here. Galba, his mission was so badly botched that he lost a point of loyalty in the thing. So, you know, it's kind of like an Empires of the Middle Ages kind of thing where you're wandering around and not really succeeding in doing anything. The problem is one of the players really has to do something. One of the players really has to change the circumstances. And it's a tough game to do that in. Alright, on to the taxation, galactic events, and all that kind of stuff. Well, an interesting lease on life as we finish up the Galactic stage. The first thing that came up was the Galactic events, a recall of all the standard Imperial character spaceships. That means all the knights, their special spaceships, they can't move this turn. That's a painful occurrence. It really does mean that where I have knights groups over here, here, and here, I really can't do anything to react for the entirety of this player turn. That's going to really throw a crimp in what the reactive capability of the Imperials are. Of course, I could move with just the characters with military forces, but then they leave behind their kind of cool spaceships, and that's probably a worse choice than anything else. Now, this is kind of a weird situation because Knight spaceships, when they're recalled, oh wait, maybe Red Jack ship doesn't count. So I can move Red Jack. With the others, it's a weird situation because if they lose their spaceship, they can get it back. So I can move them militarily. They'll discard their spaceship, and I guess they'll get it back at the beginning of the next turn because they'll have abandoned it and it becomes lost. So it may not be that terrible. It seemed a lot worse because I thought it would stay back there and I'd have to go pick it up, but that's not the case. My movement is Province 1 and Province 4. I spent most of my money upgrading Province 1's PDBs. Why? Well, because I had a lot of money and I feel like I have most of the forces I want on the board already. At this point, I'm trying to upgrade those PDBs because they make the Imperial territories a much tougher nut to crack. This is the point in the game where it becomes really rough on the Rebels. Yeah, the Explorer flown by Mantok with the scanner has a pretty good chance of getting through anything, even a level 2 PDB. Although there's still some risk there. But all the other two groups start becoming less and less viable as I get those PDBs up. And all of them are up now. And a lot of them are up to level 1, which, you know, then the next step is, do I want to bring them up to level 2? Or do I want to build military units I don't like so much? The much-loved militia, but they're a pain in the ass because you have to transport them. They make good starting forces. If you put militia on all the planets, it makes things a little tougher on the Rebels. They have to actually fight battles to take control of planets. But, you know, they're just so weak that whatever you get in the Rebellion can probably wipe them out. So I don't really like using them. Anyway, we'll move to the Rebel player turn. And as we can see, what's most important here is Province 3 isn't on here, and that's where most of my Rebels are. Which means they have kind of a free ride. I got to kind of peek for the Imperials to see. Now they're going to be able to get to hit it next turn, which is nice. They have a 2 to 3 zone, which means the Rebels won't have an absolutely free hand, but they'll have it for this turn, and that's going to hurt. The Rebels have a terrible turn here. First of all, their couple of camps didn't do them any good. I don't think I checked for this one. Yeah, I don't think I checked for that. That one did them some good. It gets rid of the camp, though. They would have needed 2 successes to really get a bonus off that. But what happened so badly? First of all, nothing of value here. We got 1 loyalty off of diplomacy. We didn't obviously get the rebellion. I think it was actually the action was canceled there. Over here, I split into 2 groups. I'll explain why in a moment. Over here, they ran into the nasty thing, Elians here. They have a really nasty combat ability. Basically, they'll attack on the 0 table. They're these electronic intelligences that they're going to attack each character individually. And they attack on the 0 table, causing... The characters can't attack back. They can't do any damage, essentially. And they have to withdraw from a table that's not terribly good. Now, if they succeed in withdrawing, all fine and good. But if they don't, there's a 50% chance that they're going to take casualties off of it. And poor Vodot took a death there. Everyone else took a couple of wounds, I think. Let's see, Sidir, Ryan, and Froon each took 2 wounds. So that mission group is in trouble. They may want to meet up with someone else. They did manage to succeed in their one mission they tried, which was performing a rebel camp action, but now we got another rebel in the trash bin. And that's why I decided to split this group up. It didn't go too terribly. Nobody died or even got hurt, but Xena and Kogus, their mission got canceled. They were attempting, I believe, to foment a rebellion. I was hoping that Raynor could get the two reductions. He actually, I don't know if they were trying to foment a rebellion. No, they were trying to summon Sovereign to get this guy. That would take 2 successes. That's a tough call. I shouldn't have even been doing it that way. But right now, things just don't look too good for them, and we'll push it into the Imperial turn. Now, like I said, the Imperials are a little bit handcuffed here at this point. They can't move anything into where all the rebels are playing, and they've got to leap behind their Night Starship. Nothing too spectacular for the Imperials, although they did manage to wipe out a couple of the rebel bases there, and I think they actually got some diplomatic success. Senator Durman raised the loyalty here. Nothing sufficient to get the domino effect in play. Elsewhere, I don't know, mostly cancellations. And on to another rebel turn to see if they can make up for their losses last turn. We're gonna be getting out of here too. Got something of a break here, the rebels did. Moved over here to Rorth. Squamot or whatever. Unfortunately, they found that's Empire Forever. That makes it a little more difficult to move the loyalty marker. Now the Imperials can tax this at full value. It's kind of cool because it's not too important a planet. It's a 7-point planet though, inhabited by a starfaring race. One thought is to set up a rebel camp there, but the problem is the first diplomacy result would automatically not count. So with only 4 checks, it's pretty unlikely to move that loyalty, even with a camp there. And the camp will get squished. So instead I did a gain characters mission. That didn't work. Okay, fine. But over here, we succeeded in sparking that rebellion. And because it's the Welcome Rebel space, it's double value. So we got quite a significant force here of starfaring forces with the Yesters. And then a big pile under our leader here. What's his name? I can't read it. Didn't help. Okay. Shiraloon, something like that. Whatever he is, he's a special race that I could only buy lesser valued units, but I got a whole pile of them. Plus, I got a lot of points here. I've got like 50 points on my resource track. I'm beginning to think it's about time to start preparing maybe the rebel base. Because if I can throw that into rebellion, then I can start buying elite units and such not, and really start fighting the war wherever that is. And it happens to be here, but don't tell the Imperials that. They haven't really been bothering too much with discovering the base. It's a tough job. Usually you have to capture an enemy character for it to really work. And so far I haven't had a lot of engagement where my troops have been fighting the rebels much. So we have that, but now we have a domino effect from that. First off, it immediately affects its neighbor. One neighboring planet in the system can be affected. Now, I can also pick one Yester's planet. And this is one place where the guide is absolutely necessary. I think I've done this before, where you look up where the different starfaring races come from. And here the Yesters are in 2111. That's their home. That doesn't look too promising, although it might be kind of neat. 1112, which would be this one. Again, doesn't look terribly promising as a value. 22.2 is over here. That's kind of pleasing. I'm gonna push that one over. That's actually ripe for falling. It sucks that I've got a couple. Let me make sure I don't have another one. 22.3. Wow, they're all over the place. 22.3 is up there. 23.1 would be here. That doesn't look terribly useful. And finally 31.2, which is the planet I just hit. So I'm going to go for this one, even though there are a couple of Imperials there who can pretty much counteract that situation. That's kind of a dangerous planet for them now. It's right at the realm. I could, if I can send rebels in there, I could throw it into revolt. So that's the extent of the domino effect when you just hit a single starfaring, occupant in the planet. It's much more extensive if you hit the home planet of the starfaring race, though, and that would be a pleasing thing to gain. I targeted it, actually, and I'm targeting other home starfaring homes, but so far I haven't been able to get anywhere with them. I've still got Raynor and Xena and such not. Try to figure out what they're going to do. But this is definitely a big bonus in the Rebel plans. They now have a significantly defended planet, actually. That's going to be tough for the Imperials to deal with. Well, tough luck for them. Freak accident, injured Raynor. 1 point injury, not a huge deal, but still. And Xena and Kogus ran into the beast here, which is kind of this annoying whirlwind type thing that you can't fight. It's a little easier to escape than it might otherwise be. If I had had the group together, they could have gotten away easily. As it was, Xena took a hit, Kogus took a hit, and then they finally got out of there. Xena and Kogus almost succeeded in summoning Sovereign. They got 1 out of the 2 they required. I really have to stop doing that, but because it's a terrible mission. As it is, though, I feel like I almost have to get out of here because I'm just not getting the movement that I need on there. I don't know. All right, that pushes us back into the Imperial turn here. The Imperials wind things up. Barca goes over here. His little group manages to raise the loyalty of the throne world. The main reason that they're here is because the next turn they can jump and try to handle the problem. I was able to get some units off the throne world, but they didn't make it there. They made a misjump. So chances are that Lai's group is going to slip out of there. And that means these guys are without a leader. There's some desire to maybe leave Lai Mantok behind to lead them because he's really a good leader. But he's not a match for Barca and the Imperial will, which is the name of the Navy. So I'm more looking at this as, again, a distraction while I try to do more things. Maybe I can snowball more, but I've only been able to trigger rebellions in the 2 planets that it's easiest to do so. The living planet, where it's almost trivial, and welcome rebels, where, as you can see, I had a significant difficulty, but it's still an easier planet than most. Elsewhere, poor Thaisa Kimbo got injured there. I guess she was spread a little too wide. Over here, Gelba and company decided to perform a coup. Now, if that had been successful, it would mean there'd be no more coups there, and it could have conceivably shifted the loyalty significantly further over. But there was a coup aborted, people captured. Well, there's no one here to capture them, so they're okay there. I did check the rule on the possessions, though, while I was kind of fiddling through looking up the coup capture. And those go back in the deck. So that ship and the other item, the gems, whenever something's destroyed, it just gets thrown back in the deck. Anything else here of excitement? Not really. So we move into the beginning of turn 7. Okay, we finished up the Galactic stage. Our event this time is a time singularity that allows, on the first player turn, on either side, in this game turn, the action groups are allowed to commit two different action types each. So you could send one group out and do two things, or if you split groups, they can each do two, or whatever. This is kind of a problem for the rebels because they have so many damaged groups at this point that they're actually, or so many damaged people, that they're not going to get as many activities as they'd like, whereas the Imperials will get a lot. Imperial taxes were collected, and we upped the rest of the PDBs. That's one thing to note here, and I think I made this mistake at one point. Never, ever, ever end your turn as the rebels in Province 1. That's why. You can always raise the PDBs by a level in Province 1. So if you're stuck on a planet, if taxes, you never want to be in the province where the taxes are being collected. But chances are that's going to be a province that the Imperial player is going to activate on their next move, for one thing. And secondly, this applies there as well. They can raise the PDBs right over your head, and then you can't get out of the planet safely. You have a very good chance of getting shot down on the way up from the planet. That is really, really risky. Okay. And that becomes a real issue here. Unless you can... now, if you have a navy that can escort you into Province 1, that's fine. But Province 1 is just too damn dangerous to be in. And once the Imperials are in the position where they can raise a PDB over your head, I mean, yes, something like this Lymantok expedition here, that can get out because it's that good. But you don't want to be risking it. You don't want to be in a position where the Imperials can lock the door on you. Now, if you think you can create a rebellion in Province 1, if you're pretty sure of that, and I've got some places, like here, where that's pretty likely, actually. All right, then you're fine. But you lose all your mobility. You lose your ability to run around and drop rebel camps and stuff like that. I don't think I turned this over. And we got Province 2 and Province 3, which means the rebels want to get out of there again. And the rebels move on into Province 4. Now, I gathered two of my groups in order to exchange characters. These guys were pretty much all injured, so they did rest. These guys were injured, Rainer's group, but the decision there was to conduct this double mission event option and not worry about those injuries, and that worked out okay. They got their rebel camp. They also did a diplomacy mission, and I was kind of like, wow, why do both together? But they didn't have much else to do because this group had done the big group here, Lymantok's group, had done the big action already that really could be done that wasn't diplomacy, trying to create rebellions, etc. The only remaining thing was to pick up the last character, Odin Hobart. I guess I could scavenge for possessions or something like that, but I didn't think about that. Anyway, so this group did like 4 actions. They did a diplomacy, start rebellion, summon sovereign, and gain characters. All they got out of it was the character. Just really, really, cancellations left and right, all kind of problems there. Nobody got hurt or anything, but it didn't work out well. But now I'm going to have the opportunity to shift people. I can move one more person into this group. So this group still remains a large group, which is okay, I guess. In some ways, large groups are really great. I might want to try to have this group shadowing with Rainer's group, or actually dump the people from this group into Rainer's group. Problem is, then you're putting all your eggs in one basket, one bad PDB run, and everybody could be dead. Alright, anyway, on to the Imperial. I'm busily undertaking the Imperial turn, and I've shifted a lot of troops over here to try to handle this rebellion. I want to note something. I had a misunderstanding, well, guesstimate, as to how leaders affect the hyperjump chances. Barca's space tactical rating, or whatever it is, isn't added to the hyperjump ability. It isn't subtracted, say, on the table or anything like that. All it does, there's a limitation. If you send more than 3 counters, more than 3 space units on a hyperjump as a single entity, they start getting a penalty on this table, maintaining a good jump. That rating is additional units, essentially, that he can pull with him. So he can carry a larger stack. Now, we're getting a pretty big stack here together, and I'm trying to get as much as I can so that I can start to wipe out this rebellion here, just like I did with this rebellion over here. Okay, so now for the Imperials, they landed here. Barca and Cadu both made attacks. Because of the restrictions on stacking limits by environment size, it made sense to split the forces. Otherwise, you'd want to just throw everything in on one, wipe it out. Cadu didn't do quite as well. Barca did significant damage to the opponent, but Cadu got a bad roll and ended up getting kind of an exchange type result, just in terms of the amount of damage. He took 3, they took 4, I think, or whatever. We left Senator Dermond up here just to keep him safe with the space units. Got some pretty significant space units up there, which are sufficient to prevent an escape, probably. However, I forgot, and I may have done this over here, to cope with the possibility of the PDB doing damage. Now, it's only a level 1 PDB. I gotta look that up. So what should have happened is they were coming in, they should have taken a raking attack, because the PDB is level 1. This only happens if you have at least a level 1 PDB, and that's one of the negatives for that, for having one up. They're going to get attacked on the 2-to-1 table, and this is against space combat strength, which might affect. Let's take care of Barca's stack first. He took 4 hits. That would be a veteran. I'm going to kill these 2 patrols, but let me make sure he had one. He must have lost significant losses there as well, because he had, I thought, more than that. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 strength points. I thought he had more than that down there. That's not enough to have handled what he was fighting. I thought he had 14. So I'll put these in place instead. And now he's going to lose 4. That'll be a veteran. And now I got to try to figure out what he would have actually done. Instead of being on the 2-to-1 table, he would have been on the 1-to-1 table. So he would have only done 3 instead of 4 hits to this, which means I would get a 2-1 back instead of that. So he did a little less damage. Yeah, there's a cost to coming in on an enemy's area. And 2-to-1 for Cadu, and I should have sent extra forces down for both of these. He would have lost 2 extra to kill a line unit, but now he took some losses as well on his attack. Let me see. He would have been at... I don't remember what his losses were. I thought it was 3-to-4, but that doesn't look possible, so it was probably like 3-to-2. So it would have only been 3-to-1. Alright, so I'm not sure. I gotta look up how casualties are handled, because I'm not sure the rebels lose anything. I seem to remember heavy units being invulnerable to damage, in the sense that when you attack, if you do casualties and the enemy can't take those casualties fully, they don't take anything. Let me make sure that that's the case. It is, and this is the unit that was lost, which means that the rebels wouldn't lose anything because they would have only taken 1 hit point of damage instead of 2, so this unit would not be destroyable. It's a reason why the militia kind of suck, because they take damage no matter what. Whereas those big heavy units like the elite armies or whatever, if you have a stack of those, chances are you won't take any damage when you deal out damage. I'm not too worried about it from the Imperial point of view, because they can pretty much buy what they like out of military. Losing some units, yeah, it sucks. It's like having your PDBs drop down. You just have to rebuy them. From the Rebel point of view, it sucks as well. It sucks much worse because they don't have much control over what they can buy even. But they don't have much control, so there's not much difference. They can't really just buy heavy units. In fact, they're usually restricted because things aren't in starfaring areas. Other than the military attacks, which I had to retake. One thing to note is this rebel camp was left alone, more or less. I put some stuff in space there over it. And let's see, I sent Red Jack and his crew here, but they got lost in space. And then Gelba and his crew, and over here, Els and his crew, both attempted to do diplomacy where they landed, as well as a summon sovereign mission. They got nothing. They got half their summon sovereign. You need 2 successes because this was a neutral ruler in both cases, somebody who could flip over. That causes something of a problem. As I start getting sovereigns summoned, I have to be careful. They're not supposed to be on the board, but I'll never remember that they exist if they're not. So it's easier for me to kind of indicate, hey, if this guy had been summoned well, I'd put him over here instead of on top of his name. And hopefully remember that's the case. Maybe get him some troops, because it kind of sucks for him not to have troops. He doesn't serve as much purpose. Anyway, that's the end of the Imperial turn there. And we'll move to the Rebels again. And again, you see both sides kind of being ineffectual, but that's the way of this, or what looks like largely pointless turn for the Rebels. Push this forward. What do we got? Well, we got a couple of movements. For example, loyalty went down here. We also got a summon sovereign successful here, which will mean they have an extra character while they're there. That makes it more desirable to launch this into rebellion, but they don't have a very large group, and they failed in the diplomacy that they went alongside that. They only need 1 diplomacy to be able to do a rebellion action, and they can do the 2 simultaneously, so they may still want to split the group, even though it's a fairly small group. They did it before. They've got decent combat power in there, so it's probably safe. Rayner's group headed out for a risky jump, knowing that they wanted to get some distance to get where they want to go, as well as give them a time. They had injuries throughout the group, so it gave them a chance to rest a little bit. Over here, a big long jump to try to find this secret. It's an industry world. They still haven't found one of the big secrets, the dead world, that can have, heavy effects on the loyalty of a number of different planets through the domino effect. So that's very, very tempting. They haven't found the Imperial archives. They haven't found a number of things that they would like. So there's a serious kind of issue with regards to that. When they went here, they tried to do a coup. It failed. There were no troops on the planet, though, so they weren't captured. And they managed to set the PDB down kind of accidentally. They were doing the coup and the diplomacy at the same time, trying to get a lot of effect on that, so that maybe they could throw a rebellion into place. Now, this is kind of a risky place to be. I explained this before. They're in the first province, going into a tax phase. That means that PDB can, of course, be put back up, which is not a big deal, but the level can be put to a level 2. Now, that becomes a constant tax drain on the Imperials once they do that, but it might just catch the primary rebel group. I just feel like the rebels are falling behind and need to take, need to do more than they have, and that secret had been hidden from them. It's, I think, the only remaining secret in the first province, so it probably won't be doing something like that again without a targeted, yeah, I know I can take the planet. But it also allows them to swing into province 2 fairly easily, which probably won't be covered next turn. We don't know, maybe there'll be a 2-3 again, but that's unlikely. On to the Imperials. The Imperials have a tough time consolidating force where they want it to. In particular, here, the environs weren't big enough to throw the troop strength, the number of counters in to get the strength they wanted to make an attack. So John Cadu did not attack. Barca attacked, destroyed the rebels, and actually got to dispatch a squad. There were 11 strength points of military units there, so it's a 12-8 squad against the leader, and wiped him out. You can't capture those guys, as far as I can recall. I tried looking it up, and it doesn't really indicate, but they can't really leave their environment unless they can go to space, and it's just, it doesn't make sense if they could be captured. And that'll get me the force to move into this special environment with those elite units and be able to attack there. Now the problem is, well, there's a number of problems. One of the problems is the rebels should have moved those units into here. They could have gotten a stronger stack that way and maybe at least reduced it to a 2-to-1 attack. What I couldn't do was move the other stack here, because then the leader couldn't have gone there. That would have even been more appealing, because there's 2 shifts in the unknown, in the strange environment, as opposed to just 1 for the wilderness troops. But you know, I got 2 shifts for the leader there. Anyway, didn't work out well for getting that. Elsewhere, though, the Imperials didn't get much done here and here. No real successes on diplomacy. Actually, no, Red Jack succeeded in a diplomacy mission here and got things up. We're looking at a strategic assignment that goes from province 1 to 3, which probably isn't too helpful. Chances are there aren't going to be a lot of rebels in province 1 now. And there isn't much danger there, but it does mean that I get to continue my actions here. The thing it doesn't mean, I'm not going to be able to shift forces over to province 4, which is looking like it may be having more problems now. But next round is going to be a province 4 taxation, so I will probably be activating into there. Anyway, that is the end of this 7th turn, and we'll load this one up.